So in this video, we're going to be talking about deferred invoices and what exactly they are and how they work. So the first, a little bit of a definition of a deferred invoice. When you put parts on a major unit sale, it is very possible that some of those parts are going to end up being special ordered. To clean up the problem with the special orders and having to deliver them later to the customer, and the fact that they were originally ordered off of a major unit sale, we came out with a process of deferred invoice. And basically what it is, and it's a setting that you can actually turn on in settings, but it says, look, if I'm doing a major unit sale, I don't want to put parts on the major unit sale. I want them to show up on the major unit sale, but I would like for them to actually go to another invoice to keep everything clean. So what ends up happening is the parts, you're still adding parts as accessories, you're still adding them to the major unit sale, and they still show up here, but Lizzy's actually creating a completely separate invoice and then linking it to this invoice to display. So when you order parts and deliver them later, everything is clean and works exactly the same way it does for everything else. Now, there's a couple different things to keep in mind with a deferred invoice. Down here in the finance section, you can see there are two labels here: a deferred invoice deposit and a deferred invoice tax. Now, the reason this says deposit is that we are really not closing out the part sale. We're not doing anything with the part sale. We're just saying that, look, I want to collect enough money on this deal to pay for this part sale, or to pay for a portion of the part sale, or whatever it happens to be. And so what we're really doing here, and you can see more clearly when I click this edit button, the little pencil here, it is going out and looking at all of the existing part sales that are in the system and asking which one of these you want to link to this particular deal. Now, as soon as you link one of these to this deal, the parts that are on that invoice are going to show up on this invoice, and any parts that I add to this major unit sale are going to be automatically put on this part sale. And so what ends up happening is the credit that we're creating, this deposit, is going to go on the customer's record as a credit. So it's gonna, we're basically collecting money on the major unit sale to pay for parts later. So that is another reason why up here at the top you can create just a generic credit. So maybe we want to collect an extra $1,000 on this deal to help him buy some parts and things later. Maybe he wants to buy some helmets and stuff, or maybe he doesn't know. You're just going to collect a little bit of money up front so that he can buy some stuff in the shop later. But the generic credit allows you to create just a generic credit that's not linked to any particular invoice. But if we select a specific invoice, then from that point forward, any parts or money is going to be locked to that particular invoice. So at this point, I am specifically saying that I want everything related to this deal to go on this specific invoice, and that includes the deposit and anything else. So as an example, if I come down here and tell it that I want to link the parts that are on this invoice to this, from the major unit sale to this particular invoice, and we save this invoice, you'll notice that the parts that were on that deferred invoice, they actually just popped into this deal. So I'm still sitting here on the deal. It looks like I just added 3 parts to this deal, but in reality, these parts are on a completely different invoice, and this amount of money that's down here at the bottom is going to be collected to use toward paying for that invoice. Now, you'll also notice that I'm collecting, if we edit this again, I'm throwing in a generic credit and a specific invoice, so you can add to that amount of money that you want to collect. And then what will happen is you'll notice that the amount of money we added has been added to the balance on this particular invoice. When we cash this out, we are going to actually create a credit on the customer's account that is going to be linked to that specific invoice, plus another $100 that's not linked to anything, that they can then use to pay for other stuff.